In this Navaratri series, as we progress and we look for maturity and we look for building our lives together and see how we can evolve over a period of time, it's an absolute privilege for me to introduce somebody who is involved at multiple stages across the life cycle of an individual to help them grow, to help them realize their own potential and achieve that potential. It's an absolute privilege for me to welcome Dr. Chinu Agarwal to this show. Thank you so
Thank,
much for taking out time and joining us for this Navaratri series.
thank you so much. Thank you, Charu.
Before I begin, I would like to understand how has been your journey so far?
My journey has been interesting. So, you know that I started from a small town in Maharashtra, Amravati, and I actually am from that batch which had a problem in medical admissions. So in 1994, we passed out our 12th standard, and in that batch, Amravati and Nagpur universities were separated.
Yes.
And so in that batch, Amravati students got a real beating because we did not have government seats in Amravati, medical college seats. And so we were left with the choice to either take admission in a private college or just leave the dream of becoming a doctor. And so in spite of having a very good percentage in my 12th standard, I was being asked to settle for a dental seat in Akola Dental College, which was a private college. And by that time, I had already made my mind to do something in the field of mental health, which was pretty early, but I don't know. I got impressed by the biography of Sigmund Freud, who is the doyen of psychology and psychiatry. And, you can say that he is the first person with whom the history begins. And interestingly, his biography was given to me by one of the English teachers of VMB College, who was my friend's father and professor of English. And they were, after his retirement, they were shifting their house. And so he opened up his library and he said, "Jisko jo lena hai le jao." So I picked up this book by Irving Stone called as Passions of Mind. And I was in my 10th standard at that time. And I had already decided that I have to do something in the field of mental health, which was, very nascent, to be honest, at that time. And then it just occurred to me that if I have to go for a dental seat, then my whole idea of interacting with a person is gone. And I will be dealing only with the oral cavity. And it was not at all appealing for me. And then one of my cousins in Pune, she was a homeopathic doctor. She told me that, you should take up homeopathy, because that considers mental symptoms and that would help you to, do something of your choice. So I did my BHMS. And when I was in my final year, I started doing an internship with Dr. Shrikant Deshmukh, who is a famous psychiatrist of Amravati. And he then introduced me to Dr. C.G. Pandey, who was the head of the department of Nagpur University Psychology. And he is my mentor into this field. He introduced me to Rational Emotive Behavior Therapy, which is the first therapy that I learned from Albert Ellis Institute, New York. And then I went on to study further in psychology. I did my post-graduation in psychology. I did my PhD in psychology. And I did a lot of certifications because of my own curiosity to keep learning.
Amazing. So this idea of which started quite early, the point probably at 94, the same batch that we cleared, this particular thing was not even heard of, and not many where people were opening up. So when you looked at 94 and then the journey for 4 years, pursuing the psychology and then building it up, there are a lot of choices that come your way when you are at that stage, right? It could be a pure practice. It could be keeping yourself up to speed all the time by learning new things. It could mean certification. And there is also a very difficult choice of creating that into a moment. So
Hmm.
how did that happen?
Yeah, so I got married in 2000 to a homeopathic physician. And he already had a clinic, and he, of course, wanted me to practice homeopathy along with him. The hours were divided and all that. So at that time, I just started my practice as a homeopathic doctor. But my heart always was in psychology, and I had learned a lot of psychotherapy. So he encouraged me to explore more, because I got married in Faridabad, which was more progressive than Amravati at that time, being nearer to Delhi. So then, what we did, we started visiting hospitals. I remember I visited Apollo hospitals when we were just married, just 2 months after we were married. And then they asked me about my profile and what I have learned and all that. And we also went to Vimhans, Vidyasagar Institute of Mental Health and Sciences, and we went to Metro Heart Institute, and finally Metro Heart Institute gave me a job as a psychotherapist. They recognized my training in rational emotive behavior therapy, and that's how my journey actually started. So after I started going to Metro Heart Institute, in a very short span of time, I had launched a few programs. One of them was quit smoking with the respiratory department of that hospital. And we used to have a workshop on Wednesdays. And another I had started was obesity management with the help of REBT. Then I started stress management and all other workshops. And so I started becoming popular. And I think not even 3 months I had started going regularly to that hospital, and I started getting referrals at my own clinic for psychotherapy. At that
Great.
time, I used to charge 300 rupees per session. And then, of course, I started also encountering some challenges, because if it was a urban population, educated population, what you have learned in a certain context, because I had learned everything from the West, so you can apply it directly. But when I had to speak to the rural populace, which was also coming to me, I started facing this challenge that it is this therapy that I'm talking about is very confrontational in nature. And so what should I do? So I came across a course in positive family therapy by Dr. Nozrat Pashishkin from West Germany, who was an Iranian. And he did a certification course, which included using anecdotes and stories for psychotherapy. That inspired me a lot. I then raked up our own stories, indigenous stories from Panchatantra, from Jatak Kathai, and I wrote a paper, research paper on the therapeutic value of our Indian stories, and it actually got a best paper award in an international conference. And so then my hunger for learning more and more started from there, because now I knew that, one approach is not a panacea to solve all the problems. I need to know more to be able to cater to more types of people.
Great. So when you are building it up, that's probably the foundation for the next venture. How did the feeling minds come into existing?
Feeling minds came very late. After I had started my job in the hospital and practice, what I realized, because it was a heart hospital, where cardiac surgeries used to happen, many young people started coming for counseling. And they had already had their bypass surgeries done. 35 years ka banda aa raha hai, who has had a bypass, 32 years old. And I thought that, I'm meeting them very late. I should have met them before they got a heart attack. I should have helped them to modify their lifestyle or manage their stress before that. So I thought that I should go to an educational institute. And so, very luckily, I got an opening in first in an institute in Rajasthan where I worked for 2 years, then at Sharda Group of Institutes in Agra, which gave me a foundation to work with young people. And I was made the dean of the department of a full-fledged department, training and development, where I had a team of 42 trainers, soft skills trainers. And we started from scratch. Like we made the syllabus, curriculum, everything from scratch. And we catered to the training needs of 25,000 students across the 14 campuses of Sharda. While working with Sharda, then it started, ringing in my mind that I have to meet these people even earlier, maybe in their childhood. Then the idea of feeling minds came. And we actually started feeling minds. Like the groundwork had started in 2012-13, but the formal launch happened in 2016 when I finally resigned from my job and I took to my company full-fledged.
Amazing. Now this transition from being into a job, which comes with along with its own restriction, but comes along with a background and at some point in time a comfort financial as well. But when it comes to looking at following your passion and dwelling on that for a sufficient period of time, but starting on your own, it's a very different journey. Being an entrepreneur comes along with a lot of other responsibilities. So how did it happen for you?
First of all, I was very, very nervous because I had a very stable job, a high profile job, a very good salary. And, you have that, when 3,000 students in the morning call you, good morning, ma'am, kind of a, stature. And suddenly you are sitting alone in your office and there's nobody to, koi nahi pooch raha hai, who are you? And you have to now dig the well and then you have to do everything on your own. But my husband and my brother, they were the pillars who supported me. My brother was so encouraging. He said that, I'll deposit the amount that you spend in an year in an FD and you don't have to worry about earning. You just build your network for 1 year. My husband was like, my practice is on one side and your company is on the other side. I am at your beck and call. So when such support a woman gets, there's no looking back. And to tell you the truth, I never had to use my brother's money. In 7 days after resigning, I had earned my 1 month salary.
Amazing. So you started alone in this journey, but the network expanded a lot over a period of time. So how did this idea of turning the whole thing as an enterprise into a whole movement happen?
So it's just like, I launched a few programs, certification programs, and the people who came to me as students, they're really keen and sincere people. And I thank my stars that I got such nice participants and students in my workshops from the very first workshop. And, I was surprised when they used to come and tell me that we have done our MA in psychology, we have done our PhD in psychology, but nobody taught us this. And, my mentors, they then started telling me. So I remember the first workshop that I had done was on transactional analysis. And one of my teachers, he said that, just go ahead and do it and, circulate it on the groups and social media and you'll get participants. But nobody came. 2 participants both head of the departments of the medical college, they registered for the workshop. I was so embarrassed कि मैं दो लोगों का क्या workshop लेने वाली हूँ. I mean, and how do I tell them that, you know, you are the only ones who are interested, nobody else is interested. And I then told my teacher that, sir, ऐसे से है. He said, you just start. Even if it is with two people, just start it. And in no time, these two became 200.
Wow.
My transition analysis workshops became the most popular workshops. It became my signature workshop.
Amazing. So this, when you looked at various aspects of the psychology or even well-being in overall perspective. Now, when you look at well-being, particularly post-COVID, that is one of the positive impact that people have started looking at their well-being as a very important aspect. And there appears to be equal importance to both the physical well-being as well as mental well-being. Now that you are seeing it happening, how do you see the journey happening and how effectively you feel that people are getting the right advice that they need?
Yeah. So to answer your question, see, in mental health, we can talk in terms of illness and wellness. You know, so people in India always had this social stigma that if you are consulting a psychologist or a psychiatrist for that matter, are you crazy?
Yes.
You know? So, but then this illness is only the tip of the iceberg.
Yes.
If you are able to manage all the things that you are going through in your life, when you are well, when you are not ill, then illness won't even happen.
True.
And so I thought that I have to work in the area of wellness. So I started with career counseling, then with parent counseling, then with emotional education of children in schools. We built a very good network with schools, and in 2016, the government of India actually invited us in a Chintan Shibir. And they, took my inputs for the national curriculum framework where they wanted to include emotional and mental health. And the schools gave us a really good response, especially the premium schools of India.
Yeah.
Then we also thought, so, what happens when you start with career counseling, parents come in, the children say that they don't have a very good relationship with their parents. Then parent counseling came in. Then we thought that I'm not going to able to cater to so many parents. So we need some parent counselors, trained parent counselors. So we launched a certificate program for training parent counselors. Then when parents started coming in for counseling, we thought that, their own relationship is not in a good shape. So we then started thinking about relationship counseling. So then I ventured into relationship counseling. And I designed a program, which is a 6-month comprehensive program in relationship counseling, the very first in India. And we already completed a batch of training, which was very, very successful. And this is how everything got linked to one another. And we just kept going and doing and learning and growing.
Amazing. The story appears as if it is just happening on its own, but it doesn't happen that way, right? There is a lot of effort that goes behind it. So what are these efforts? Can you give us some insights on how you really prepare for this? Because it takes absolutely human effort to build up something like this.
Exactly. So, an entrepreneur's life is like this. कि आप ही अपनी दुकान के प्योन हो, आप ही क्लर्क हो, आप ही सेक्रेटरी हो और आप ही डायरेक्टर हो. You have to be we did not use PR services till now because we don't have that kind of money. We don't use social media marketing or digital marketing or SEO optimization. कुछ भी करने के लिए हमारे पास extra funds है ही नहीं. तो फिर what we did, what we did, I started teaching free on WhatsApp groups.
Okay.
And at that time, WhatsApp group size was maximum was 50.
Yeah.
So I was teaching 9 different topics in 9 groups.
Okay.
And my WhatsApp groups became so popular that, people did not have a seat in them. They were always waiting for the next group to be launched. That's how I made myself visible, my talent visible. It took a lot of hard work. But then people came to know psychology padhni hai to Dr. Chinu se padh.
Great. So the people and everybody's that talking about the binge marketing and all, something that you did many, many years back automatically.
Yeah.
And now it's the brand that basically talks about. The one thing that I would like to understand, I heard that you also had a lot of interactions with Government of India and with the corporates on multiple initiatives on the wellness part of it, the mental wellness part of it. What are the challenges that you see in today's world?
What are the challenges?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, the most important challenges what I talked about is social stigma surrounding this field, which is shrinking post-COVID. And people are realizing that meeting a psychologist is like meeting any other professional. Just like you meet your chartered accountant for some finance-related problems, you can go up and meet a psychologist and, just have a talk about what are you going through. And it is not something to be ashamed of or being embarrassed about. I think one of the challenges that we have to deal with is any psychologist cannot just dream of doing MPhil or MA or PhD and setting up a clinic and waiting for people to come in. We will have to work on the awareness part of it. And there comes a role of the government. When there are lots of, projects encouraged by the government, when government takes serious interest in the emotional and mental well-being of citizens, then it becomes easier. So now that has also started happening. It is very heartening to note that this government sanctioned a special budget for the mental health and they are launching telemental health services along with NIMHANS. We also started 2 courses with SAM Global University, Bhopal.
Okay.
One is in school counseling, school mental health, where we are encouraging teachers to learn basic counseling skills. And second is telecounseling, where people are now approaching counselors to give online sessions or telephonic sessions. So they should be trained enough to do it because that is tougher than face-to-face sessions. Anyone who is not trained might do a little more damage.
Yes, that's unfortunately a risk that comes along with the technology. Totally agree. One of the part that we are seeing, and it's very widely discussed these days, is about having the right women leadership or right diversity in your organizations. However, while we are promoting the diversity, and it cannot happen just for the sake of it, and it does not really work if it happens just for the sake of it. It needs to be more of a cultural change that has to happen. And in this particular process, when these leaders come up, and particularly women leaders, when they come up and they want to look at the world from a different perspective, that's when they encounter a lot of resistance. Let's be honest about it, they do encounter resistance. So how do they overcome this resistance? What would be your guidance for them?
One thing is, in psychology, we have far more women than men. In fact, more men are required. And what is the advantage of being a woman is, a woman is naturally more sensitive and empathetic towards people's pain. And so because this is a softer profession, a soft science. But at the same time, psychology being a scientific, domain, we also need a lot of techno-savvy attitude a lot of statistics, a lot of mathematics, a lot of structure, a lot of administrative capabilities. And hence, I believe if women need to grow as leaders in this field, they really need to learn. There is no other choice. As far as a bias or prejudice towards women is considered, I, for myself, have never faced it. Maybe I am one of the fortunate people. But see, very early in my career, I was given positions like the Dean Training and Development, and I was given a big department to cater to. I was given so many responsibilities. My family supported me, and all the as if the whole universe was on my side when I started growing. Basically, I maybe it, because of my personal experience, I believe this, but I believe that if you are sincere, if you are genuine, if you are passionate about your work, people will fall in line.
Amazing.
But one thing
Yeah,
I would like to add. You have to learn something called as assertiveness,
beautiful.
being firm and polite at the same time.
Amazing. The perfect recipe. Though the coming back to the younger generation, the generation that's moving in. So there is a struggle that's happening in the organization, particularly the generation which is coming into the industry today. I had a lot of online learning experience, and they also had a lot of online experience when it comes to particularly searching for. There's a huge amount of content which is available. So people tend to look for information very easily on the net. They find it and then they easily come up with some kind of a perspective of their own towards any of the challenges that you are facing. Conventionally, when the industry was talked about, it was always the seniors who were looked up to for providing the answers. And now a lot of that experience is already captured on net. It is easily available, and the whole cycle for the learning cycle right now has shortened for the younger ones. So there is the conventional way in which the companies were working no longer exist. We are talking about a completely different economy and a completely different workforce also. And this workforce, which is highly pro accelerated learning, compared to a workforce which has come from a conventional learning, there is a conflict. What would be your guidance on resolving this conflict?
Actually, I also sometimes feel a little perturbed when young people come up and they don't even care to introduce themselves properly. And so they would just say, uh, when can I start an internship in your organization? Arey Baba, who are you? At least tell me something about yourself. You know, it's already taken for granted that, and so the term that needs to be looked into is this sense of entitlement. The conventional leaders earned everything through sheer hard work. And they came up from a background of adversity. Wherein the newer generation is coming from a background of abundance, where they have many choices. Now, who has to grow? The conventional leader has to grow. You can't expect them to fall in your or toe your line. You have to grow and become a part of their universe. Otherwise, you are going to become outdated and redundant. So you have to go and meet them, not expect them to come and meet you. This whole paradigm shift of attitude is going to bring in that kind of, compatibility again back into the organizations. And that's how we are going to go ahead and build organizations of the future. So when I, as a leader who expects certain things from my juniors or subordinates on my team, take it for granted that they are not going to happen. And so now you have to think anew. What are going to be the motivational strategies that you are going to use? And for that, the paradigm shift, how does it happen? So in the terms of transactional analysis, we say that, when you were interacting with your juniors from the parent ego state and you expected them to reply from there saying, yes, sir, I understand. Yes, sir, will be done. So, the compliance factor is not going to happen. So what is going to happen? You have to come down and you have to bring them up and meet them on this platform where you respect their talents, their opinions, and you come to the asking mode rather than the telling. In a neutral discussion, deliberation kind of a mode. Then you can build peace.
Amazing. Amazing articulation. It's you have simplified the whole thing. It's such a complicated topic to be discussed, but you gave it the perfect solution that they need to come on talking terms, arrive at a common ground for them to look at the company. Now, one thing that I'm very curious about, always understanding, because I see you socially on participating in so many things across various initiatives. At every point in time, particularly in the field that you are working on, which is still not evolved to the extent it is there is a lot of work that happens by default as a social work. Because there is a lot of pro bono work that I see you doing, going across the various firms, and there's also an enterprise to run. How do you achieve this balance?
Yeah, this is a message that I would like to give to all the psychologists, budding psychologists, practicing psychologists, experienced psychologists working in the field. It is your choice. Which work do you want to do professionally for a compensation, and which is the work that you want to do on a pro bono basis socially as your social contribution? Out there in the market, there should not be anyone dictating terms to you. So I am very clear when I am going to talk about suicide prevention. Recently, I was in Assam Downtown University, and when I finished my interaction with the students, a check was ready for me. And they came up in an envelope, the head of the department, and with a letter to receive it. I said, no, but I have not asked for any amount. She said, but we would like to pay you. I said, no, but this is my philanthropic work for suicide prevention. This is my choice that I'm doing it out of, my own responsibility towards the younger generation. But when I come for conducting a professional workshop, there are going to be charges attached to it. You have to be clear in your own mind. Nobody should be able to tell you, अरे मैडम आप तो साइकोलॉजिस्ट है ना, तो इतने चार्जेस किस बात के? इतने चार्जेस इस बात के because we have invested in our own training and learning, and we are entitled to charge whatever we deem to be necessary for our services. We want to do something pro bono is our choice.
Amazing. Simplified and amazing clarity of thought. Thank you so much, Dr. Chinu Agarwal, for these amazing insights and helping us understand how the industry would be able to address this challenge by bringing the younger generation and the older ones on the same platform. Thank you so much for this amazing insights. And this is going to be one of the sessions that everybody is going to look forward to. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.